Welcome in, everybody. If you are looking to seriously level up your leadership toolkit, you have landed in exactly the right place. In today's explainer, we are unpacking something called Appreciative Inquiry. Now, a quick heads up. It is incredibly easy to mistake this for some fluffy, feel-good workplace training. But we're going to look at it through a much sharper lens today. It's actually a highly strategic, high-level business tool that completely changes how you and your team solve problems simply by shifting what you choose to focus on.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap. We'll start with the power of positive inquiry, then shift over to the leadership mindset. After that, we'll break down a couple of incredibly practical frameworks, the 4D model and implementing change with the 4 I's. Finally, we'll ground all of this in hiring and coaching talent before wrapping the whole thing up with creating a positive core. All right, let's kick things off with part 1, the power of positive inquiry, amplifying success.
To really make this work and truly amplify success, we have to completely flip the traditional management paradigm on its head. For decades, management was defined almost exclusively as a process of hunting for deficits and fixing mistakes. It was all about what went wrong. But Winston Churchill actually hit the nail on the head when he said, "A pessimist sees the difficulty in everything, an optimist sees the opportunity in everything." In a corporate setting, avoiding that constant stream of criticism and fostering a genuine can-do attitude creates an environment where teams take profound, real pride in their output. It is all about training yourself to see the opportunity in the situation first.
And this concept right here brilliantly illustrates that. Instead of pulling out a magnifying glass just to nitpick what is poor or average, you intentionally put your focus squarely on what is absolutely excellent. Think about it. By recognizing the best in your people and their processes, you fundamentally skyrocket their confidence. And when employees actually feel confident and heard, well, productivity naturally rises because they are driven to replicate their successes, rather than just operating out of this constant, paralyzing fear of making a mistake.
So, what is our official formal definition here? Appreciative inquiry is the ability to recognize the best in people or a situation, utilizing positive questions and imagery to build a future of goals and ambitions. I want to stress that this is a powerful, highly calculated business approach. It is not just about smiling more at the office, right? It's about using past accomplishments as the literal building blocks to form new ones, which ultimately drives concrete, measurable business results.
Moving right along to Section 2, shifting the leadership mindset, from deficits to assets. You know, the default human reaction to a problem is to immediately ask what's wrong. It's just how we're wired. But that leads directly to assuming the worst, overgeneralizing everything, and hyper-focusing on deficits. Appreciative inquiry, on the other hand, trains us to first ask what's right. When you get hit with a problem, taking literally just a few minutes to evaluate the positive side makes complex, stressful situations far more manageable. It stops that paralyzing all-or-nothing thinking that so often derails effective decision-making.
Now, here's the really crucial point, and I want to be super clear on this. Being positive does not mean you just ignore mistakes or pretend faults don't exist. You aren't aiming for some impossible, error-free utopia. That's not reality. Rather, it is about learning to leverage your existing strengths to actually solve those challenges. It's holding up your team's previous successes and using them as the blueprint for how to navigate whatever roadblocks are currently in your way.
Let's see how this builds into an actual framework in Section 3, the 4D model, designing the future.
So how does this philosophy become a clean, actionable strategy for your organization? We do it through the 4D model. Step 1 is discovery. This is where you find out what already works for each person and what keeps them functioning positively. Step 2 is dream, determining what you actually want to see happen and creating a shared vision for the future. Step 3 is design, creating the step-by-step procedures and a solid action plan based on those past successes. And finally, Step 4 is delivery. This is the execution phase, where you assign the necessary job duties and officially bring the plan to life. It's an incredibly effective process flow.
And that leads us perfectly into Section 4, implementing change with the 4 I's.
Okay, so once you have designed that future using the 4Ds, you have to actually implement it, right? You have to roll it out effectively at the upper management and stakeholder levels. That's where the 4I model comes in. You start with initiate, addressing exactly what needs to change and who it affects. Next is inquire, where you actively gather information and opinions from your employees on the ground. Then we move to imagine, forming a tentative action plan based on that feedback. And lastly, innovate, which is putting the proposed plan into action. Sometimes that means starting with a select test group before you do a massive company-wide rollout.
All right, let's bring this down to earth in Section 5, Hiring and Coaching Talent, on-the-ground application. Now that we've covered the high-level structural frameworks, how do you actually use this stuff on the ground? Well, put yourself directly in the shoes of an interviewer for a second. Instead of opening with aggressive questions designed to stress test the applicant, what if you simply asked, "What did you value most in your last job?" Just think about that shift. This positive framing immediately makes applicants feel confident rather than intimidated, which gives you a much more authentic, detailed view of what they are truly capable of. What's really fascinating here is how these strategies completely transform the dynamic of the interview room. By framing positive questions and recognizing recurring themes, like an applicant's honesty or commitment in their job history, you find out what actually works for them. Plus, soliciting a positive story isn't just for the applicant's benefit, it is huge for you too. Sharing a story about, say, a current employee celebrating a 25-year work anniversary immediately elevates your company's image in the eyes of top-tier talent. You don't need scare tactics to command respect. And this dynamic ties beautifully into how we manage and coach ourselves. Jim Henson once had this great quote, "Life's like a movie, so write your own ending. Keep believing and keep pretending." Now, I know it sounds a little whimsical, but in a business context, this is all about the immense power of anticipatory reality and mental positive imagery. It is literally about utilizing the imagery of your past successes to control that nagging negative anticipation about your future performance.
Let's unpack that a bit. Anticipatory reality is simply the practice of imagining a successful future to positively influence the decisions you are making right now. Negative anticipation usually spirals out of control when we don't have all the facts and we start relying on workplace rumors. But if you focus on factual data and visualize positive outcomes like just picturing a clean, empty desk at the end of a hard week, or recalling an award you won, you are preparing yourself to handle adversity with creative flexibility. You aren't oblivious to the risks, you're just confident you can navigate the gray areas.
Let's wrap things up with our final module, Section 6, Creating a Positive Core, Building a Legacy.
We've talked about structural frameworks. We've talked about hiring strategies and individual mindset. But the ultimate goal of any executive leader is institutionalizing this mindset deep within the organization's culture. A strong positive core is what ensures your teams can collaborate effectively while still maintaining profound individual confidence. And it's built on 4 essential pillars. First, identifying your team's natural strengths. Second, thoroughly documenting your best practices. Third, creating peak experiences that highlight absolute possibility. And fourth, celebrating tangible successes. Anchoring your team's identity in these 4 things gives them a massive, reliable reservoir of confidence to draw from when things get tough.
And that brings us to one final thought to chew on as we conclude this explainer. You've got the tools now, you've got the conceptual models, and you understand the psychological framework. So the question is, how will you rewrite your leadership legacy? Are you going to keep merely fixing what is broken, or are you going to start actively amplifying what is excellent? Take these strategies, go update your action plans, and start building a future of incredible ambition and success. Thanks for joining me.